Archaeologists have discovered a huge ancient city hidden underground in Mexico, which may give a better understanding of the Maya civilization.
Deep within the heart of the Central American rainforest, there is a silence that feels heavy, almost intentional. For over 1,000 years, the dense canopy of the Petén Basin has acted as a green shroud, swallowing cities that once rivaled Rome in their complexity and grandeur. This is a landscape where the earth itself seems to fight back against discovery, guarded by heat, venomous creatures, and a vegetation so thick it can hide a 100-foot temple from someone standing just a few yards away. For decades, archaeologists have trekked through this green hell, following the whispers of local legends and the jagged outlines of limestone mounds, hoping to find just one piece of the past that hasn't been shattered by time or stolen by greed. But the reality is grim. Most of what we know about the Maya comes from ruins that were picked clean centuries ago. Finding a royal tomb that remains exactly as it was left 1,700 years ago isn't just a dream. In the world of archaeology, it's considered an impossibility. Yet, in a discovery that is currently sending shockwaves through the scientific community, the impossible has finally happened. An untouched vault has been breached, revealing a figure who seems to have cheated death in a way that defies every rule of ancient history. Lidar. The laser that peeled back time. For a long time, the only way to find a Maya structure was to literally stumble over it. You could be standing on top of a palace and think it was just another hill. That changed with a revolutionary piece of technology called Lidar, or light detection and ranging. Imagine flying a plane over the jungle and firing billions of laser pulses toward the ground every second. These lasers bypass the trees and bounce off the solid structures below, creating a digital map of the Earth's surface without the noise of the vegetation. When researchers applied this to the jungles of Guatemala, the results were staggering. The jungle didn't just have a few ruins, it was a sprawling, interconnected megalopolis. Beneath the trees, they saw perfect right angles, massive causeways, and hidden ceremonial complexes that no human eye had seen since the classic period. One specific anomaly caught the attention of the team. It was a massive, tiered structure that appeared to have a hollow core, a void that shouldn't have been there. It wasn't just a building, it was a safe, a stone container designed to keep something hidden from the world forever. Engineering fear. The Maya death traps. As the team began the grueling process of excavation, they quickly realized that the Maya didn't just want this site hidden, they wanted it protected. This wasn't a standard burial. The descent into the earth was a masterclass in psychological and physical warfare. The Maya architects utilized a terrifying technique involving chert, a sharp, unstable volcanic rock. They filled secondary shafts with tons of this loose rubble, creating deadly slides. If an intruder removed the wrong stone, the entire ceiling would liquefy into a crashing wave of razor-sharp stone, burying the looter alive in seconds. Beyond the rock slides, the team encountered false floors. These were thin limestone slabs covered in a fine layer of dust to look like solid ground, but they were positioned over 30-foot vertical drops onto jagged floor stakes. The message was clear. This was a space for the gods and the dead, and the living were strictly forbidden from entering. Every inch of the descent had to be probed with specialized tools, and the air grew thin and metallic as they moved further away from the world of light. Opening the vault of Untouched Mayan. After weeks of navigating these ancient hazards, the team reached a final, massive limestone slab. It was sealed with a mortar that had hardened into something as strong as modern concrete. When they finally managed to create a small opening, the air that rushed out carried the scent of wet stone and a profound, ancient stillness. This was the moment of truth. As the flashlights cut through the darkness of the chamber, they fell upon a series of vibrant, deep red hieroglyphs. Among the symbols, one name appeared over and over again: WTI. Through careful translation, the researchers realized they weren't just looking at a king. WT1 was a figure from the early classic period, a time of brutal warfare and shifting alliances. His tomb was positioned in a way that suggested he was the axis mundi, the center of the universe for his people. But as the light traveled further into the room, the archaeologists realized that the king inside was surrounded by things that simply didn't make sense. The forbidden rituals of the elite. In a typical Maya royal burial, you expect to see signs of wealth: jade jewelry, fine pottery, and perhaps the remains of sacrificed attendants. But the tomb of WT was a chaotic blend of two worlds that were supposed to stay separate. Alongside the royal scepters were obsidian blood letters and strange avian masks usually reserved for the highest-ranking priests. In Maya society, the king was a political leader, and the priest was a spiritual guide. Rarely did one person occupy both spaces with such absolute authority. W.T. Point appeared to be a god-king in the most literal sense, a man who had collapsed the wall between the palace and the temple. The chamber was filled with eccentric flints, stones chipped into the shapes of lightning bolts and gods, arranged in a circle around the body. It looked less like a place of rest and more like a laboratory for a ritual that was still in progress. The team felt as though they had walked in on a ceremony that had been frozen in time, waiting for a trigger to begin again. The bone that shouldn't exist. As the lead researchers began the delicate task of cataloging the artifacts, they found the piece that would eventually baffle the world's leading experts. It was a small, polished bone, likely taken from a deer, or perhaps even a previous ancestor, carved with an image of WTE himself. In every other piece of Maya art ever discovered, the dead are depicted as passive. They are shown being carried, being dressed, or sitting still as they transition to the underworld. They are the objects of the ritual, not the actors. But this carving broke that sacred rule. It depicted WT standing upright, holding his own jade burial mask in his hands, preparing to place it over his own face. This impossible imagery suggests that WTY didn't believe his agency ended with his last breath. It implies a belief system where the ruler remains conscious and active within the tomb, performing his own funeral rites from the other side. This discovery has sparked a heated debate among scholars, with some suggesting that this specific sect of the Maya believed in a form of active immortality that we have never documented before. Recent controversies. The Lidar's War. While the scientific world celebrates the discovery of WT1, a much darker story is unfolding in the shadows of the jungle. The discovery of an untouched tomb has reignited a gold rush among paramilitary looting groups. There are unverified reports and rumors circulating in the region that black market cartels are now using their own Lidar-equipped drones to find similar voids before the government can intervene. In the last few years, several sites near WTY's tomb have been found ransacked, with priceless stelae hacked into pieces so they can be flown out in small planes. This Lidar's War is a race against time. For every tomb like WTI's that is saved, experts fear that 10 more are being offed by greed, their history erased forever. The pressure on the archaeological teams is immense. They aren't just fighting the jungle and the traps anymore. They are fighting an invisible enemy that wants to turn sacred history into a billionaire's private collection. The legacy of the God King. So who was WTY, and why did he demand such a radical departure from tradition? Some historians believe that WTY reigned during a time of extreme environmental stress, perhaps a prolonged drought that threatened to destroy his city. In a desperate bid to maintain power, he may have claimed a level of divinity that no ruler before him had dared to touch. By becoming both king and priest, and by depicting himself as an active force even in death, he was telling his people that he would never truly leave them. He would stay in the dark, behind the traps and the stone walls, forever performing the rituals necessary to keep the sun rising and the rain falling. His tomb wasn't a grave. It was a permanent engine of spiritual power. But as we look at the ruins of his city today, swallowed by vines and forgotten by history, we see the ultimate irony. No matter how many traps a king sets, and no matter how much jade he takes with him, the jungle eventually wins. The unanswered questions. The excavation of WTY's tomb is now reaching its final stages, but the mysteries it has raised will likely take decades to solve. Every time a new scan is performed or a new artifact is cleaned, the story changes. Was WTY a visionary who redefined the afterlife? Or was he a tyrant who used fear and impossible rituals to keep a starving population in line? The carving of the man holding his own mask remains the most haunting image in Maya archaeology, a silent stone reminder that some secrets were never meant to be uncovered. As the team prepares to reseal certain sections of the complex to preserve them for future generations, one can't help but wonder what else is waiting in the voids of the Petén Basin. The jungle still holds its breath, guarding the hearts of kings who believed they could live forever. If the secrets of the Maya and the enigmas of the ancient world fascinate you, don't let the trail go cold here. Hit that like button to support our research and subscribe to Mysteries Uncovered Files to join us as we peel back the layers of history's most chilling and exposed discoveries. There are more vaults to be opened and more stories waiting to be told. See you in the next file.